faculty has 4 study programs: undergraduate, graduate, notary, and doctoral programs, which are established and aided with adequate facilitation. Facilities are constantly being developed to accommodate the needs of each study program. Consistently conducting the 3 pillars of higher education has brought us excellence in academic, research, and community dedication fields. This is not without the contributions of alumni, partners, and stakeholder participation. Universitas Padjadjaran Faculty of Law continues to promote innovation in legal education and legal learning methods. Students are also encouraged to involve themselves with the community through our clinical legal education and Merdeka Belajar Kampus Merdeka programs. As a research university, research in our faculty is conducted and developed to acquire
Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam, Ibu Ina.
Good morning. Okay, good morning for everyone. The session is about to start, but we are apologize. We need to. Yes, yes. It's echoing, yeah. I believe our today's discussion will bring us the additional knowledge. Yesterday, we have insight from the basic knowledge regarding human rights and the 10 principles of Bandung. And today, we will have the additional knowledge from communication perspective. So I believe Yopi will lead you the further discussion, and I invite Yopi to lead the session. Please, Yopi. Okay, we start today, students. Please enjoy the meeting. Yopi will invite you to give your opinion, answer, and the other interactive talk. Yeah. So please, we can start our session today with Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hand over to you.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome, everyone. We already have our speakers here, Pak Ibek and also Datuk Professor Dr. Azizul Alim Yahya. But before we start our discussion today, that we thought that we haven't introduced our faculty very well. So we decide to let you to watch that our faculty profile first before we start, because we are still waiting for another participants to joining us. They're still on the way to here. So Pak Versa, can you please show the participants our video profile to introduce our faculty? No, the faculty profile first. Okay. Good morning, Professor Azizul. Can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes, Ananda, loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. We are very sorry for the technical problem earlier. That's
Okay, no problem at all.
yeah. So this morning we will discuss. So this is the second course that will be discussed today. Yesterday, we already discussed about the human rights and the decolonization, and also about the Bandung Spirit, which talks regarding the Asian African Conference in 1955. And today we will talk about a very recent issues, very recent issues in democratic era, which about the social media, which about the democracy on social media. We will talk about the freedom of speech. We will talk about the disinformation, and we will talk about democratic resilience. When we talk about democracy today, we cannot separate it from the social media because our activities, partly or mostly maybe, on social media. We interact with each other, we interact with other people, we express our opinion, and also the government also uh, connecting with the people through social media. So social media play an important role today in our democracy, and therefore we decide to discuss and to include this issue into the curriculum of the summer course. And we already have two speakers. First speaker is Datuk Professor Dr. Azizul Halim Yahya. He is professor at the Faculty of Communication and Media Studies, University of Technology Marak, Malaysia. And his expertise covers a strategic communication, a political communication, and about advertising and also the public communication. And he has also held a several senior academic and institutional leadership positions at the UITM, University of Technology Mara. We are very pleased to having you today, Datuk Professor Azizul Ali
Thank
Mahya.
you.
And our second speakers is a bright young lecturer from the Faculty of Communication Science of Universitas Pajajaran, is Dr. Subekti Wirabhuana Priyadharma, or we say him Pak Ibek, and he is a lecturer from Faculty of Communication Science of Universitas Pajajaran, and his academic work focused on digital media, communication, and social change, and relationship between technology and society. And also, Pak Ibek also served as the chair of the West Java Campus Workers Union, where he often advocates about the rights of the campus workers. So, so actually, it's very interesting if we talk about the how the dynamics of the rights of the campus workers with Pak Ibek after this session. So I will invite Pak Ibek to sit in the front with me before starting this discussion. Okay. Before we start, Dr. Zuzul and Pak Ibek, that I would like to inform you that our participants today is very diverse. First, diversity is not all of us is have a low background. So many of us have, most of us have low background, but some of us have technical background and another social or science background. And also we have a diverse nationality. There is a participant from Indonesia, from Yemen, from Algeria, from Ethiopia, and from Gambia. And therefore we expect that they can bring the diverse opinion or the diverse input to our discussion today. Okay, and now let's just start. I will giving the floor to Prof. Azizul to present his presentation. Dato Professor Azizul Halim here, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Ananda, for the nice, sweet introductions. So now I would like to share my slides before I can present my insight and also my thoughts. I'm not sure whether you can see my slides or not.
We can see it.
Yeah,
Yes, we can see it.
you can see. Okay, I try to make it. Okay, now you can see again. Ananda?
Yes, Prof.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Okay, first of all, Assalamualaikum, Wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all. Thank you for the invitations to me to share some insight and thoughts. Okay, today I would like to share something as what has been discussed in these forums on the democracy on social media, speech, disinformation, and democratic resilience in ASEAN. Today, actually, we are exploring a critical diagnostics topic. As stated earlier on the screen, democracy on social media with a specific focus on speech, disinformation, and democratic resilience in Malaysia. And also, I try my best to share my information, my knowledge on the ASEAN regions too. Okay, as a digital platforms, we know that completely has reshaped our societies. In fact, we must ask ourselves how to actively engineer this epistemic resilience and also protects our democratic institutions from emerging digital threat in the post-truth era. And these slides, we can see is that something to do about the democratic promise and also versus the digital threat that what we are discussing and we are very much concerned. And I would like to begin with an Asian paradox in our regions here. In fact, how do we protect the democratizing power of the digital sphere without surrendering to the systemic manipulation or state censorship? Because we are very much concerned on freedom of expression, freedom of speech. Social media will be a good platform for us to express our opinion. But because through censorship, it might refrain us or might suppress us from giving what we might think on certain issues. Okay, on one hand, we have democratic promise driven by, in our regions here, 400 million internet users, which include Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Thailand, and many more. In fact, this has allows for unprecedented civic participations, which might lower barrier for the marginalized groups, and also might reshape or shape our political consciousness in Southeast Asia. In fact, on the other hand, we also might face a severe digital threats known as an authoritarian creeps, in which I show in the slide on the right side slide, where this is marked by a rising tide of a digital authoritarianism, information disruption, and also state-sponsored content suppressions, in fact, masquerading as a security, yeah, we severely degrade internet freedoms. This experience by quite number of state or country in our regions, as I believe. Okay, I want to share the 4 pillars of the digital agora. Okay, in order to address this paradox, we will look at the 4 pillars as presented in this slide of the digital agora. First, the transformation of speech, in fact, on how algorithms alter public deliberation and also political participation. Secondly, we need to diagnose things, the threat, what separate ordinary disagreement from coordinated information disorder. And thirdly, the regulatory dilemma that face many of the country, in fact, in Malaysia too. In fact, on how state can govern platform power without enabling censorship. And finally, the architecture of resilience. What multi-layered safeguard can absorb this information without sacrificing freedoms. Okay, we begin to explore the first pillar, as I mentioned earlier. Historically, under traditional media, information flow through a linear bottlenecks of editorial gatekeeper, like journalists and state media, in order to reach the public. This experience in Malaysia, Indonesia, I believe, and today in the platform society that we are having now, mostly, we use all sorts of platforms in order to share or disseminate information, in which the information that we share bypasses gatekeeper entirely. In fact, it is funneled through an attention-driven algorithmic curation prisms that scatter it instantly, to hyper-targeted cluster and also echo chamber. The key insight here is that social media does not merely host speech, but it is different compared to the mainstream media. So it organizes public attention. This new platform, social media platform, can organize public attention. And in fact, we have traded editorial gatekeeping for computational politics. The algorithm, the computer will decide for us what to say, where visibility is dictated by engagement rather than factual accuracy. Maybe, Okay, I want to talk about on the democratizations of voice. Okay, this shift, in fact, has powerfully democratized voice by lowering the barriers to entry for political participation. For millions of youth and marginalized group, the digital space is their primary entry point to democratic life. I think the Gen Z or the young generations now have the opportunity, to share things that what they believe. In fact, can offering previously impossible scale of direct civic engagement, where newspaper, television won't be able, like what we have today. For instance, during Malaysia 2022 general elections 15, we saw the rise of youth participation. In fact, the politicians utilize authentic storytelling, like getting over more than 500,000 followers during the campaign, and to successfully bypass traditional state-controlled media monopolies and build direct trust with voter. Now, currently in Malaysia, we are having our state election, and we can see how this social media play its role in creates the narrative in terms of the the current politics in the country. Okay, next I will talk on the structural extension of algorithmic distortions. Still in the same, the first pillar. However, in fact, this create, in fact, a structural extension where I can illustrate by through what we call virality paradox curve. Fact-based deliberation typically experiences a slower, moderate reach. Conversely, emotionally resonant disinformation achieve rapid spread and massive reach. In fact, the paradox is that the exact architecture that makes civic participation accessible also structurally disadvantaged with a careful argument. Recommendation system inherently can amplify outrage, novelty, and also maybe identity conflicts. Effectively might turning platform into low-cost infrastructure for monetized political manipulation. Because using social media, basically the cost is almost negligible, but the reach can be more than the circulation of any newspaper in the country today. Yeah. In fact, we must see how to control, or do we need to control, and so forth. Okay, I want to share my study that conducted before with my teams, that we can see how I made a comparison between Indonesia, Malaysia, and also Philippines. Yeah, and then how it's being highlighted in the social media. Yeah. Okay, for example, Indonesia in 2024 elections, in fact, we can see the algorithmic distortion playing out differently across the region. Okay, in Indonesia 2024 election, as I said just now, the grassroots creator used meme-driven critics and user-generated humor to bypass official campaign, fostering an informal public forum with immense engagement. If you have information later on, maybe you can share with me to improve my facts and figures. In Malaysia, 2022 general election, we saw deep identity politics weaponized view via what I call ethno-religious, using ethnic comparisons and also on religion through fear hashtags, in which can polarizing the electorate, even as a younger politician use direct video logging to build trust. Okay, meanwhile, in Philippines 22 election, coordinated influencer campaign generated millions of views to reshape collective memory, utilizing nostalgia to obscure historical facts. Okay, the next slide, where I label it as the spectrums of political speech, which this we move to the next pillar. Yeah, we must accurately diagnose the threats by understanding the spectrum of this political speech. On one end, we have democratic debate, ordinary political disagreement, organic activism, and satire, which are essentials for a healthy democracy. Okay, in the middle is the grey propaganda, ambiguous sources, biased framing, and whataboutism that are harmful but often protected as a free expression. So it's quite difficult to draw a lines between law and freedom of expression. Yeah, this also can be discussed later on. On the far end is the information disorder, in which black propaganda, coordinated disinformation, extra-turfing, and targeted hate speech. This is kind of deliberate, systemic threat to the electoral integrity. Okay, I would introduce this diagnostic metric, in which we look into the distinguishing the threats. Yeah, we can use, in fact, this diagnostic metric to separate organic disagreements from information disorder. In fact, organic disagreement intend to persuade or express grievance originate from authentic individual. In fact, it goes viral to genuine human resonance and ultimately expand pluralism in contrast. Information disorder intend to deceive, polarized, or might be inside offline harm. It originated from state-backed cyber truther and bot network is in fact artificially boosted via algorithmic gaming and severely degrade epistemic trust and public's safety. Okay, this is the where some case study during our election in 2022 that some of the political party weaponizations of the identity in Malaysia. Yeah? In fact, they use, the contact, say the emergence of the hung parliament, because at the time we don't have a majority in order to set up the government. So the government is hung. So and then being targeted through using ethno-religious rhetoric, especially on the platform of TikTok. In fact, the tactic, the cyber trooper, and most of them are being hired by a certain group of people or certain party, where the ultra-nationalists weaponize historical trauma, which via hashtag 13 May or 13 May 1969. Because just to share with you, in 1969, where first time we have racial clash, a number of people being killed and at that time. Yeah? That was in 1969. And then they tried to bring back the bad memories into the current, into the campaign in the recent election. In fact, we're also experiencing the algorithmic failure, where which by platform fail to detect local dialect and coded language, because the technology has not reached in terms of to separate, to draw a lines between some of the dialects that we use in the platforms. So the autonomy of manipulation, the cyber trooper ecosystem, this disorder actually follow a specific anatomy within the cyber trooper ecosystem, in which it begin with funding and strategy, where political actors allocate untraceable fund. This drive content production, generating black propaganda and emotionally manipulative narrative. Next is artificial amplifications, where a bot network and paid micro-influencer simulate grassroots support. In fact, they have number of accounts actually, a tactic known as astroturfing. Finally, this caused algorithmic hijacking, triggering the platform engine to push this content into organic user echo chamber and manipulating overall political temperature. Yeah? So in this regulatory tightrope, in which meanings that this brings us to the third pillar, the regulatory tightrope. The goal of democratic resilience is finding the exact balance of regulating digital environments without restricting protected speech. In fact, state must avoid the trap of disinformation disorder, where doing nothing allow digital pollution to destroy public trust. This is what happening in Malaysia. Okay, they must also avoid the false cure of the authoritarian censorship, where authoritarian maybe from the government censorship, where overreacting turn preventing harm into a weapon to silence opposition and restrict human rights. Okay, we're more concerned on the some of regulation in order to control. That we believe sometimes some people believe that it might harm the country, but at the same time we also need to experience or to practice to impose freedom of expression, but regulation might harm it. but on certain cases, it can be accepted. But what we are concerned is over regulation. Right? The danger of over regulation, in fact, is a common state reflex. Any issue, any content, state will reflect immediately. And this might addressing disinformation through punitive law that criminalize expressions in Malaysia. For example, through the Communication Multimedia Act, Section 233, reached peak investigation in 2025. In fact, certain group of people are being charged, but our MC, in which will look after all this on social media, don't have enough manpower to charge. Sometimes the charges or take to court are basically is meant for exemplary, yeah, so that to make a deterrent to people need to tell the truth, not just create some kind of false accusations, false information, and so forth. It is heavily utilized to criminalize constructive policy critique, satire, and minority health advocacy under the guise of public morality. Is under the regulation. Furthermore, recently on the January 2026, deeming provision under Section 46A of the CMA, Commission Multimedia Act, forces major platform into automated licensing, where all the platform need to have a license. Yeah, so this can be over regulation. It can restrict some kind of the expression among the people or the public or the user. Okay, this risks sweeping regulatory control, enforcing rapid takedowns compliance over institutional reputation rather than, as I said earlier, free speech. Okay, the next slide. In fact, the democratic solutions is a multi-stakeholder model that regulates a process, not content. Democratic state must stop policing individual speech. Yeah, that's what we would like to impose to believe, yeah? And instead regulate platform transparency, risk assessment, and algorithmic auditing. Okay, to bridge the gap between state enforcement and also platform impunity, we need social media council. This localized independence body composed of technical expert, civil society organization, and human rights advocate also can hold platform accountable for systemic failure without handing censorship power to the state. This kind of we are promoting kind of self-regulation. Yeah, so I will talk about self-regulations later. Okay, this leads us to our final pillar, the architecture of resilience. Resilience is not the total eradication of disinformation. It is the capacity of democratic society, in fact, to absorb the information disorder without losing public trust, electoral integrity, or the capacity for the reason for debate. In fact, in the research shows that trust is maintained during digital disruption through two primary moderating factors. One is the high digital media literacy, and then secondly, the high government transparency. Okay, what will be the kind of the solutions? Thing that we have discussed, thing that we are facing on social media. This has been discussed for a couple of years in many countries, in many platforms. Yeah? In fact, our resilient architecture has four foundations. Foundation 1 is the platform-based safeguard, in which meanings that this include mandatory algorithmic auditing to ensure recommendation system do not amplify hate speech or systemic manipulation. In fact, we must demand language-specific moderation, in which can force technology giants to invest heavily in humans, moderator fluent in regional dialect, and we must implement financial disincentive such as rapid demonetization of bot network to remove the economic incentive of the black propaganda. And then, in fact, our recent architecture, okay, information vacuums. This in Foundation 2, we are focuses on institutional safeguard. The information thrives not because of it perfectly persuasive, but because it filled information vacuum left by slow official response. Government must transition from reactive communication to proactive. That's what I believe. Speedy, transparent, and empathetic messaging. Most importantly, the state must protect civic space rather than limiting the digital right. The state must secure a safe digital environment for independent watchdog organizations to operate without fear of reprisals. And the Foundation 3 rely on civic safeguard and fact-checking. Okay, we must highlight the vital work of collaborative regional network. For example, in Philippines, they call TSEK Philippines in Philippines. Then, in fact, in Malaysia, we have two. In fact, we call a fact check and also Jom check. Yeah, in fact, if you need some clarification, we can go to the site and then we check whether this fact is true or not. Yeah. And for example, in Taiwan, they have what I call MyGoPen. So this is something that when you receive information through any platforms, sometimes we are in the cross line. We are not sure whether it's tell the truth or not. So one way to check, we need to go to these places in order to check. And that before we can share. And the most problem sometimes, most of the users would like to be number one in sharing. Yeah, when they receive information without reading properly, just reading halfway, and they just simply share. Yeah, so this is quite a kind of dangerous in terms of, especially when you are someone that can be in the society, being seen as a trusted figure, and then if you share, people will believe it is true. Yeah. And then, in fact, some groups might face a funding crisis and cannot survive in the volatile platform, grants or state fund that compromise their independence. Okay, we must move toward sustainable model, such as non-state, crowdsource, or independent industry tech funding to ensure these organizations remain permanent feature. This already been discussed in the political economy of communications, where is government fundings, in fact, some things that that the operator might facing what to share. If you compare in United Kingdoms, like the BBC, they don't get fundings from the government. They don't get funding from the advertisement. And also that because all this might influence in terms of what they share in the TV stations. Yeah? But it is difficult to practice, to apply, because anything we do, of course, we need some funding. Crowdsourcing can be helpful in order to have transparent in terms of sharing information. Okay, one way I always believe that in order to safeguard things that what we're experiencing in terms of didn't be flooded with all the information. If you look in terms of the current war in Middle East, for instance, between Iran, Israel, and the Gulf country, and so United States, we rely on the information that being shared in the social media. Sometimes we are not sure whether the message, the information that being shared, whether it is true or not, whether it been created by AI or not. Yeah, because nowadays AI is very powerful in terms of coming up with certain things look so authentic and so genuine. Yeah, so this is what we face currently, because the information somehow can affect how we make our decision. So here where education come into place, in fact, can guide in terms of what I discussed earlier. We cannot win by fast checking every lie, as I said, Jom check, fact check, I mentioned just now. Yeah, but we must move from debunking to pre-bunking. Yeah, where inoculating citizens before they are exposed to manipulation. Okay, this in fact require deep media literacy. Education system must move beyond basic fake news awareness to teach algorithmic awareness, helping user understand how platform harvest their attention and trigger their emotion. Crucially, this must implemented as mandatory civic education rather than optional afterthought. We need to educate kids from preschool, from primary school, secondary school, so that they can have some kind of responsibility before they can share any information or anything that can create information that might hurt certain parties. Okay, this will be my final slide for this session. Okay, what will be the architecture of resilience? What will be our regional visions? Yeah? In order to conclude, I think our regional vision relies on the synthesis, systemic defense. This formation requires combining algorithmic accountability from platforms, transparent governance from institutions, robust fact-checking from civil society, and also the psychological inoculation through education. In fact, ASEANs, we are ASEANs. Yeah? In fact, leading democracy must embrace what I call the Mafilindo digital spirit to lead the change by establishing human right-based digital government framework together. In fact, they can force global platform to respect local democracies and secure a digital public sphere built on truth, participation, and also resilience. Ladies and gentlemen, I guess that's about it on my sharing information, my presentation for this morning. Thank you very much for listening. I hope it can somehow benefit some of us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. Prof. Datuk Azizul. We agree that's the massive using. I say that there's a true prominent threat to the social media democracy in social media. First is the massive use of the cyber troops, which also happened in Indonesia. They try to manipulate the public opinion and also to manipulate the algorithm in the social media. And I also saw it in the both of Indonesian election and the US election, and it also happened in the Malaysian election. So I think it happens in the most of democracies in the world using the cyber troops, using the manipulation of the social media, and the massive using and the irresponsibility using of the AI. And the last of Indonesian election also as well in 2024, there is a candidate who using a massive AI to reframing, I think, reframing the military general into the funny grandpa, and yeah, using all of the AI contents to gain a public vote. So I think, but we saw that it's quite difficult to regulate it because the social media mostly not held by the government. So the government have the ability to make the regulation, but the question is the regulation effective enough to regulate the giant of the social media? I mean, like the Elon Musk, with the X platform, TikTok platform, the Instagram platform governed by Meta. That's the extra state and the extra government actors. So it's quite hard and it's quite difficult for the government to regulate them and to make them accountable for their algorithm. And so in the other side, the government using that weakness as well to their authoritarian agenda. So that's the dark side with the democracy in the social media, instead of the bright side that we expect, that the freedom of expression, the engagement between the citizen, the discussion, the healthy discussion between the citizen. But before we go further, I think we can having a presentation with Pak Ibek as a second speaker. Pak Ibek, the floor is yours, please.
Oke. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good morning, everyone. Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. It's really nice and it's really privilege for me to be here. Thank you for the invitation, the introduction, Pak Yopi. Yeah, it's also the first time to be in this building. It's quite a nice building and auditorium, I think. And first time I saw the list of the speakers that are stated in the invitation. It's quite heavyweight, I would say, to be in the same forum with so many prominent academics and professors from around the world. It's really an honor to be here, and also in the same session with Professor Azizul. Salam kenal. Really nice to know and to meet you online first, although thank you very much for your presentation also. And Yopi has actually given me quite a challenging task, answering 4 questions in the term of reference. We will see whether I can address all of those questions. And but I have to make a confession first. I think I haven't been able to research on social media and digitalization and activism. Not yet. Previous slides, please. For quite some time, because I've been busy with other topics, other projects on digital connectivity in rural areas. Still in the cover slides, please. Yeah, thank you. Rural digitalizations, digital connectivity, digital divide. So those are the topics, those are the projects that I've been working on recently, working with rural communities, with marginalized groups, women, children, disabled people, and to see the impact, the use of digital media, including also social media by these communities. And I think that is also why I would offer a different perspective into the questions of democracy and social media, because we see those people are put at the margin of the society, at the very of society, but then we should also look at them as a subject, not as an object of development, so to say. And it's also why we formulate the concept of periphery-centric reading of democratic speech in the plasma society. So periphery-centric is actually a concept that I've been developing for quite some time now. So I just want to try to connect this concept to answer or address the questions that Yogi has been given to me. Those are the questions, and I think if you look at Professor Azizul's responses, some of our responses are quite similar, because it could be we refer to the same sources as well. Yeah, so let's see if I can manage to answer, to respond to all of those questions. Yeah, next slide, please. Next one. Slide selanjutnya. I want to start with these events, with these photos, with this phenomena. Do you know, masih ingat? Right? Time flies. It's actually almost 1 year since Afan Kurniawan, right? A Gojek driver, a motorcycle taxi driver who was ran over by a vehicle, police tactical vehicle, at the time when there was student and people demonstrations. I think at the time we criticized the plan of the parliament, who wants to increase their allowances, right? Tunjangan, yeah. So people were mad, people were furious, and they went to the streets. And one of those people who happened to be on the streets was Afan Kurniawan, who was also working at the time. Yeah, he was killed, ran over by a police vehicle, and escalated tensions. People were getting furious again, and he wore, of course, this green jacket as an identity of the Gojek and Grab driver as well. And on other occasions, still on the same events, I think there's a woman wearing a pink hijab, facing also riot police face to face in front of the, I think it's the DPR, is the parliament building at the time, joining the demonstrators. Really iconic and also symbolic as an authentic people's movement. Very rare we see that ibu-ibu, yeah, women also protesting, demonstrating hand in hand with students. And those symbolisms, green and also pink, were becoming iconic, right? And then within weeks, I think, the movements were becoming viral. And then people demanded 17+8 tuntutan rakyat, or people demands for transparency, reformation, and empathy. So that's one event, one case of how virality works. Using phone video of Afan Kurniawan from different angles, people posted that online. And then mainstream media then kind of forced to report them. Yeah, so the first reports actually was coming from the people itself through social media, and also this pink hijabi woman as well, right? Okay, the next one. The next one was actually last week. Yeah, where our president of Indonesia, or international students, respond to critics and saying Londo Irang is literally a Dutch, black Dutch. It's quite a sarcastic terminology at the time, and associated that with journalists, analysts, academics, NGOs, and also critics. And this saying by the president circulating immediately within 48 hours. And then, of course, the Association of the Journalists Independence Indonesia demand apology, and also other parts of the civil society as well. The damage has been done, and the government said that the president is not opposed to criticism, but we could have different interpretations, because people have been given meaning to that question as well. Okay, it's two cases. Both are facts. Both facts are true, right? Next slide, please. But I think we are not talking in these occasions whether social media says or destroys democracy, whether it is true or false. But and also we saw from Professor Azizul's presentations that first, of course, we can post everything social media. We can express something. We can speak something. But the question is now, who is then heard, right? Which postings, social media expressions will be visible? What kind of mechanism, and who is silenced, and by what mechanism? I think that's one of the important questions as well for us to address in this session. Next one. Similar to what Professor Azizul also already presented, there is a paradox of social media. Citizens can speak without professional gatekeepers as long as they have gadgets, they have internet connectivity, they have quota, they can understand how platform works, for example. So the entry barriers is really low, if not completely collapsed. And also this matters most when institutions are least accessible, for example, mass media or mainstream media. But also Boolean have been conducting measurements or study a meta-analysis of social media. And one of the findings is that there is a positive relationship across a large body of studies. That there is a positive evidence for people using social media, but on the other hand, is that the effects are uneven and independent on how we use the platforms itself. Manuel Castells, I think one of the prominent academics or scholars who writes about social movements and also digital movements today, also offers an analysis that movements form between an internet and urban space. So actually, there's a kind of a hybrid movement between the on and offline space. That people is not required to affiliate themselves to a published party, union, or newsroom, or any other established organization, for example. Bennett also says, still to the previous slides, and also important what Bennett says, that there is a new political identity. We can associate ourselves to transnational issues, for example, what happened in Palestine, in Israel, in Russia, in Ukraine, whatever in the United States, there's been Black Lives Matters or Me Too movements, different hashtags, different social movement. We can associate ourselves, and then at the same time, the political experience is then individualized. So previously, if you want to demand something from the state, from the government, we should join political party or state or union workers, for example. But now we just sign a petition on change.org, right? Or giving money to Kita Bisa. So the experience is actually individualized now. The one from Doni Independent is also important, because people can also form a counter publics, when they don't agree with what the mainstream publics, circulate or form in terms of public opinion. But Christ said that not every insurgent political public online is a democratizing one. Because the conservatives or activists, for example, they can also form a kind of activism, whereas actually the motivation behind it is actually only to retain the privileged groups or the privileged movements, the privileged values by discriminating others. So not every people's movement are emancipating, and this is also why Christ said defensive publics as an antithesis of counter publics who is progressive. Next one. So the paradox is that if you want to say it precisely, already mentioned also by Professor Azizul, it's not about the production itself. We agree that production is already decentralized, low entry barrier, but then the question is now about the distribution, because attention in this attention economy, in this digital era, it is the algorithm, it is the platform-based society, it is the platform that regulates and decides which content should be seen by us or appearing on your timeline based on your browser history, based on your personal information. We have learned from the Cambridge Analytica case at the time where our data is being sold by this platform. So it's actually the attention that is being re-centralized into the elites, into the corporations, into the platform corporation actually. So in the public sphere, attention and not speech itself is the scarce good. So sumber daya yang langka, the scarce good is actually attention, right? So through what? Through rankings, recommendations, or advertisings. What Subekti also said, computational politics. And also, it is because people tend to follow moral emotions in social media, and that's why what is being rewarded or monetized is the content that incites outrage, anger, emotional responses. It is now what's being rewarded. So the allocation is actually follows engagement. Engagement follows effect. So that's the formula. The object of the democratic concern is now visibility itself, not the expressions. Bruns is really nice to conceptualize the concept of network of public, so not the public sphere, but network of public. Whereas Trans leaves the normative questions open, whether digital public sphere is actually disruptive or whether it has the capability to self-correct itself. Okay, and next one. This is an illustration how visibility is allocated or work, right? So so many posting so many contents and then filtered by so many layers, ranked by recommendation, moderations, and then only a few of them are escaped into our veranda, our timelines. Yeah. Whoever programs this layer decides which utterances become politically consequential below the level of the argument. So argument is not really that important, yeah, but the potential of visibility is what it counts in this platform or digital era. Another input is also interesting for me from Manuel Castells in the next slide, where he kind of distinguishes or categorizes, next slide please, 4 forms of power in a network society. Can you switch this slide into the next slide? Yeah, thank you. Networking power, network power, and also network making power. So he distinguishes these 4 types of power. The first one is a type of power where power of those included over those excluded. It could be connectivity gatekeepers, the ISPs, for example, your internet service providers. As long as you connect to the internet, you have this networking power. So actually, whoever decides who is online at all. So if you remember, during COVID, we must install an application, right? Peduli Lindungi atau apa dulu namanya ya. Now we call it Satu Sehat, right? So this kind of networking power is an access for you to enter malls, enter public transfers, enter this building, universities, offices, right? So those kind of networking power. So the ones that don't really have gadgets, yeah, this app, yeah, or don't want to be vaccinated, yeah, or don't have any proof that they have been, vaccinated, they are excluded in this network. Second one is network power, or the power of the standards that define the membership. Could be the regulators. If you check the terms of service when you install an application, yeah, do you even read all of those? Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, we just scroll down until the end and then we check this term of service. Yeah, agree. Registration and verification regime is also one of the example of it. Yeah, the government, the Komdigi Indonesia also has this PSE, yeah, public service or private electronic systems, which means that all platform company should be registered if they want to continue their operation in Indonesia. So that's network power. Network power is the power actors exercise over one another inside a network. Yeah. It might be states over users, platforms over publishers, or also advertisers over creators. So I think the platform decides the rules, how we play in each of the social media platforms that we use, right? So that's kind of network power. And can I also say one of the important types of power in a network society is actually network making power, yeah, which decides by 2 roles, the programmers and also the switchers. It is the power to program a network's goals and switch between networks. So, for example, platform designers as programmers, Bapak Nadiem Makarim at the time as the Gojek CSO, right? He was platform designers. He was the programmers. He decides whether Gojek drivers are treated as workers or as mitra, as partners, right? Who don't really have rights in terms of workers' rights, because they don't treat them as workers, but as mitra, as partners. So they decide the rules of the game. The switchers is actually all of those people who have different roles, the elites. We know that many media owners in Indonesia are also active politicians, whether as head of the political party or as as people who are affiliated in the circle of the elites. So they can then switch their roles, whether as a businessman or as a politicians at the same time. So network making power is the decisive one according to Castells, because programmers set what the network optimizes for, and switchers connect the media network to the political and also economic networks. But then, the next slide, please. Can we then hijack this power? Castle also say wherever there is power, there is counter power. So I just want to offer the periphery centric approach into this conceptualization of power. Because we see that actually the civil society who sits at the margin or at the periphery actually has the capability to regain or reclaim power from the elites. It is the capacity of social actors to challenge the power embedded in institutions in order to claim representation for their own values and interests. But now the big question is that how? We can use the same mechanism to reprogram and reroute the switches, or becoming the programmers themselves or the switches themselves. We could also introduce new instructions or new codes into the network's program, for example, using or through collective action changes, what the network rewards, through memes, through if you in these intelligence stories, there's always templates, where you can use, like for example, Indonesia Gelap, Indonesia Darurat, 17+8 also, so that became viral as well. So that kind of reprogramming activities will work as well. Or reroute the switches, right? Instead of political elites, there are many influencers as well who are sided with the people. Some of the prominent influencers also, for example, Afutami in Indonesia and several others, also conceptualize this 17+8 tuntutan rakyat movement as well, right? So those are the switches, if you want to use the same logic. Peringatan darurat. So the model is actually from my conceptualization of periphery centric, which defines that the power actually it's not absolute, but it's also really dynamic. We can at the same time position ourselves or be positioned at the periphery of the society, but at the same time also subject to an activity. We can, so CP is actually center and also periphery at the same time, right? If we treat political elites, infrastructure, algorithmic visibility, and so on and so forth, and also oligarchic as the centers, and the citizens, youth, and the civil society at the margin or at the periphery. Actually, the position of the central periphery is really dynamic. So according to our ability to reprogram or reroute the switches, we can switch the position of central periphery. So it has actually the counter power or the emancipatory counter power. If we want to to optimize the potential of the network itself. The very survives by converting documentation into visibility, snap, recording, posting, giving meaning, giving interpretations, tagging so many mainstream media accounts, for example, so many influencers. So this kind of tactics could be used as well. And visibility into political cause for center. Yang rumahnya dijarah, Ahmad Saroni's houses, and also so many houses of political elites were, paying the cost of not really paying much attention to the people's demands. The exercise counterpower by reprogramming, which means introducing new codes and rerouting or bypassing connection points. The repertoire is actually, according to Castell's, mass self-communication. So it's a combination of mass communication using mass media, amplifying our own content and meaning or postings, and also self-communication, because social media is basically self-communication, right? We want to talk to ourselves. We want to present ourselves, our narcissistic side of ourselves into social media, This is why we post according to our own point of view. So this term, mass self-communications, is actually the combination of these two concepts. Autonomy and also giving us self-empowerment, viral fusions, and it is also exactly what the image 8 displayed in August 2025 in the first slide with Afan Kurniawan and the pink hijabi woman. Okay, next slide. So what have we learned so far is that this information is actually not a truth problem the first time, but it is a distribution problem now. Because attention is allocated. So the big question is then how we should regulate the distribution mechanism itself, right? Professor Azizul has given his recommendations using algorithmic mechanism, for example, digital literacy, and so on and so forth. But his two studies from Fisuki and also Alcott and Gensko, who says that false news reach more people and travel faster than true news. Because fact checking and also the correction mechanism is always comes late, behind the false news itself, and the difference was driven by human sharing, not by bots. So this is also an important issue here, is that we are as humans who shares mis or fake news, mis and disinformation itself, not bots actually. So the solution is actually in ourselves, whether we want to share or we want to verify the news, the information that we received before we share. And Alcott and Gensko said that low-cost production and monetization infrastructure for false political claim can emerge around an electoral event, as also exemplified by Professor Azizul in so many cases in Southeast Asia, and also in the US, where during an electoral event, fake news are circulating very heavily. So the problem is not only that lies exist, it exists throughout the history of democracy, but it is the distribution system that rewards them, and ordinary citizens are the distribution system itself. So they take advantage of this load distribution system, actually. And it is also why fact-checking alone cannot solve it, and why speech bans alone cannot solve it either. So the big question is then how to regulate. Another example of how, next slide, please. This participatory, not only participatory in information, but also participatory disinformation, because there's a loop that closes without an author. It is a study by Grass using an example of the attack of the Capitol Hill in the US at the time, where the political elite sets a frame. They form a repeated messages who becomes the lens through which events are interpreted. So the first content creators or producers are actually political elites. And then the crowds kind of receive that framing, not only the message, but also the frame of that message. And they fuel with another stories, manipulated or fabricated stories. They generate stories themselves. So that the stories are, the information is actually misleading, that fits the frames, and sometimes also intentionally. Yeah. So this occasion comes the manufacturing of frames itself, often sensorily and by misinterpretations, and then going again upwards to by influencers who amplify this messaging by the online crowds, the so-called grassroots active social media influencers push the stories back up to the elites, and the elites echo them back and down, so reinforcing into bigger, so escalating into bigger movement. At the end of the day, there is no single author is required, actually. Yeah, so that's why removing the producer does not stop the production. It is the distribution system that needs much attention. In the next slide, you will see the model, how participatory disinformation works, which then resulted in January 6th at the attack on the U.S. Capitol building at the time. Yeah, so political elites to the audience, amplify, going back to political elites, and then which given back also to audience, amplified by influencers, and then they are mad, they were furious, going to the streets and protest, using guns, using weapons, and so on and so forth, and we see what we saw at the time. I think the same happened also in Indonesia during the what was at the time, aksi bela Islam, right? Anti-Ahok movements, yes, the elites and also the influencers kind of twisting the words, and also fuels the crowds into more and bigger crowds, and also demonstration or protest at the time. Yeah. Next one. There are four working, so I just want to say the working typology, and four categories that can be applied in case, in just, under a minute if you want, that build on kind of an observable features by intent, by coordination, and by harm. So the recommendation is that we should not judge only by truth alone, whether the information is truth or false, but by the intention, the coordination, and harm. So those are the values, or the categories that we should, evaluate. The first one is that political disagreement. Political disagreements has a truth value of contested or interpretive. We can agree or disagree on, for example, free meal project, MBG, Koperasi Desa Merah Putih in Indonesia. We can agree or disagree about that. There's no coordination on, the formulation of those opinion. And political disagreement is actually protected by the regulation, by the constitution. It is part of the democratic values, right? It is the raw material of democracy. So regulating political disagreement is harmful. So we should not regulate political disagreement. Misinformation has a truth value false. Sometimes we share them unintentionally, just out of a curiosity, whether positive or negative. There was, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago, right? There is a a child whose father was died or killed on because he stole a chicken, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. So then people would pour this little child with donations, with money, yeah. But what the people don't really know is that her father was actually a recidivist, yeah. So the emotion is actually then, the tone of the emotion is then actually different, yeah. Those kind of misinformation, like a sincere sharing, yeah, but it should be then corrected by media literacy, yeah, not a sanction, or by correction or fact checking, for example. Another two categories is disinformation and coordinated manipulations. Yeah, we can agree that disinformation is false or misleading. Many of them are intentional and also funded by the elites. Yeah, so that's why it is also disinformation is legitimate object of policy, of public policy. But we should also define exactly what we mean by fake news or disinformation is, yeah, and should be then evidence, should be proven. And the most dangerous category of mis and disinformation as actually coordinated manipulations, often technically true, yeah, but most of the time are not. Yeah. They are coordinated systematically, yeah, by buzzer, astroturfings, by bots, and should be regulated because it attacks the integrity of the public sphere itself. So it is the strongest case for interventions. If you remember, during the election at the time when Jokowi was accused as the son of a communist, for example, right? Or Obama as a Muslim, yeah, whatever, yeah. So kind of negative or black propaganda, black campaign is fall under coordinated manipulation category. So it is the fourth category that holds this harbors democratic harm and is the category least addressed by content level speech law, unfortunately. And there are, in the next slide, NIM offers for the repertoires and how we should use to recognize an operation in real time. The first one is, the first tactic is then dismiss. Yeah. So if you don't like what your critic says, just insult them. Yeah. Antek asing. Hey, antek asing. So that's kind of critics. Londo irang. Yeah. Just don't go back to Indonesia. Yeah. Kabur aja dulu. Yeah. If you don't, Donald Trump associates the same thing as Prabowo, right? If you don't like to live in Indonesia and here, just go elsewhere and don't go back, right? So dismiss is one category of the tactic. Distorts, if you don't like the facts, twist them. Yeah, sometimes we see that media reports often has the frame students and people movement as riots, for example. Yeah, so peaceful protest, yeah, twist or framed into riots. So this kind of distorting facts is one of the tactics as well. Or distract. If you're accused of something, accuse someone else of the same thing. Yeah, if you are a corrupt officials, just say, hey, same thing with the others as well. It's not only me. Yeah, so kind of whataboutism to distract the focus on yourself and also focusing the same issue on the others. Or a dismay. If you don't like what someone is planning, try to scare them off using persecution or doxing, intimidation. Yeah. So it works and portable across languages and political systems and equally available to state acting against its own citizens. Yeah. Do you? I think you can reflect in your own country, yeah, whether you have as well this kind of tactics, yeah, used by the government, the regimes, the political elites, yeah, to silence their critics. Yeah, it is really typical. The example coming from in the next slide from the Philippines, yeah, I think Professor Azizul as well using the Philippines as an example. General election 2022, where there's a study, the candidates using 1,425 influencers accounts presumed to engage in covert political campaigns across Facebook, X, YouTube, and TikTok. So it's actually, they paid those influencers. Yeah. And of those 1,000 and extra, 584 unique influencers identified some operating multiple accounts, not only one, but also multiple accounts. So the estimated cost of those operations ranged between 10 to 25 million euros spent on covered political influencer for top candidates, which work, right? In Indonesia also work. Yeah, basically. So political influencers price themselves on social capital and political notoriety, not on reach alone. So number of followers is influential, but it's not only one measurement of those influencers, to reach the public, yeah, but their social capital and political notoriety are also two important factors. So higher offers go to those willing to change political camps. You can today support one candidate, but tomorrow is another story if other candidates want to pay you more. Yeah. So it's really, really transactional politics right now. So this is in the Philippines. The next slides would be done in our country. Yeah. Can you recognize all of those influencers who are sided with Prabowo and Gibran? Yeah, of course, we can debate whether they are paid or not. Yeah, but the fact that they are, posing and using the same symbolisms, blue kind of colors, sporting, and it works. Yeah, it works. And they also, benefits from their affiliations to the candidates and to the winner now. Yeah, okay. Next slide. So now the question is then how? Yeah. There's a trap. Yeah. Two federal modes facing each other don't use crude regulatory response because terminologies or words can be twisted. They are kind of elastic or flexible to be interpreted by whoever want to use the regulations. For example, insult, defamation, hate speech, false informations. What does that mean? Yeah, it can be twisted by political elites. It protects democracy in names while handing the state general purpose instruments against criticisms. Yeah. The failure mode is that not the statute's text, it's correct, what is written in the regulation, but it's how they select the enforcement. Yeah. Who should be sued. Yeah. It's selective enforcements that is the problem. But on the other hand, if we then want to hand it to the market, to the platform, it could also, stimulate another problem as well. If we leave public debate to private governance, who produce opaque rules, automated moderation at scale, and commercially structured incentive and no meaningful appeal, it could be also a problem because those private powers are uncountable, over public function. The online space is actually already governed, albeit by ranking systems, terms of service, and policy discretion. The question now is then whether it is governed by rules that are public, reasoned, proportionate, and also reviewable. Another research has been conducted in the next slide, by our colleagues at UNPAD, where they see a shrinking civic space in the media. So media is actually one of the locus of the shrinking space itself. So if we see that during the statistics, so they actually conducted a content analysis of news reports, in online news reports, and they, see that who threatens the civic space as named in the coverage. Most of them are the elites, police or security forces, the central government, and also the local governments are groups of people who threatens civic space or civil society the most. And 57%, more than half percent of coverage address national or capital city issues. So actually in Jakarta, in Java, so the capital city issues are actually more covered by the online, by the news media, while actually the worst intimidation occurred locally, at the very in Papua, in Kalimantan, in Aceh, for example. So those persecutions, intimidations were actually happening at the very, but was not being reported by the national media, unfortunately. Almost all articles use an episodic frame. Only a little fraction of them were thematic. Why is important? Because episodic frame, like batch in batch, episodic frame doesn't give you context. So, for example, violence reports or intimidations, only being reported as single events. They don't see the pattern of these intimidations of the threats itself. 74 out of 85 articles concern prosecution and also criminalization. So the sad thing is that according to Dr.phil, media ownership tied to political and extractive business interests. So they only care for clicks, and visibility. That's why most of the reports are circulating in the cities or at the center. The media is not only a witness to shrinking civic space, it is one of its sides. So the media is actually part of the problem itself, because they don't reside with the public, but with the commercial and also political interests. Another study by, next slide, by SafeNet, they look at who files the complaints, not only at the what the law says. 351 documented violations of freedoms of expression. So last year, this is 2025, so 2024, largely from proactive or cyber patrolling. So violations of freedom of expression on the internet is actually as a result of cyber patrolling of the police officers, of the authorities. And 900 of them are digital attacks, so roughly more than 3 times higher than the previous years, in the forms of threat, doxings, account takedowns, and also physical intimidations, and also more than 2,000 cases of online gender-based violence. One important point is that the last sentence, defamation provision is formally neutral between parties. Okay, that's what the regulation says, but in practice, it is resource and resources are distributed center first, as also evidenced by the previous study, who says that only the elites who threatens the civil society. The next one. This is also just answering or responding the fourth questions. We already have a sufficient different kind of regulations who guarantee freedom of expression, right? It is necessary, yes, but it's insufficient. And Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 19, and also in our Constitution, Article 28F, in the McBride reports, 1980, Many Voices, One World, who see that the structure of communications is really unequal between countries in the world. If you see data traffic between Asia and Pacific, for example, we tend to consume more, from the outside sources, rather than giving to the network. So we are consuming people or society actually from content from other parts of the world. Yeah, so this kind of unequal structure of communication is what was addressed by McBride report. Is a Nobel laureate, an Irishman. Yeah, and he says that communication is a matter of participations, not only a transmissions. Now we talk about not only rights but also communications right, yeah, which then defined as a capability to be enabled, yeah, not only for those who are privileged, who have connections, who are fluently in language, for example, who are connected, but also for those who are disabled, for those who are marginalized, yeah. So, and Center for Community Rights extended this in the digital era as a digital justice. So all of those reports, especially in the article 19, gives us the right to speak, but now the questions is now furthered by who guarantees that everyone will hear you. You can say something on the internet, but there's no guarantee that people will see your content or people will hear your opinion expressed on the network. So how should we regulate that? Yeah, that's another big question. Again, which will be then addressed in the next slide. There are 4 layers of policy design. The first one could be then institutional. We already have the courts, election bodies with narrow elastic provisions and also recent orders. There is also efforts to regulate information by journalists, by fact-checking efforts, research infrastructures. We try as fast as we can to verify information, right, at speed and disclose the selection criteria. There are also legal procedural using legislators and also regulators. But one policy designs that keep omitting is that civical communicative, which is actually the periphery-centric approach, right? Citizen, communities, school, universities, community networks, us, yeah, kita semua, yeah. Actually, we can document credibility, we can record something, and also we can interpret the amplification of those events, of those phenomena, giving meanings, not only content, but we can also sustain communication beyond commercial platforms. So if the algorithm change, for example, a regulation changes, the relationship between people, genuine people can be still sustained. So this is actually the civic communicative infrastructure that needs to be enhanced or empowered. Why? Because resilience is not a shield the center holds over the periphery. It is the capacity the periphery holds when the center fails. Yeah. Again and again in history, when regime falls, the government falls, what left is the people itself. Yeah, we should then sustain ourselves communicatively, just in case when system is not working anymore. Okay, last slide. I think for these sessions, we can take at least 3 takeaways. It's being said again and again. Social media, okay, it decentralized speech, yeah, but also decentralizes attentions. Any analysis that does not distinguish the two will misdiagnose the problem and misdesign the remedy. Yeah. So please taking care or pay most close attention on the distribution, which relates to the second point. Is a distribution problem before it is a truth problem. Speech regulation is enforced along the same central periphery gradient as every other set resource. Write the rule for the periphery for us, or it will be applied against them. Yeah, so the regulations, the policy is actually for the people, yeah, not to protect the interest of the elites, whether it is political or economical. The last one is that resilience is a capacity the very holds when center fails. Building it is a communicative project before it is a regulatory tone. So the last one for me is that before we ask whether measure is effective, ask who it will be used against and whether the person it silences will be closer to the center or the periphery of power. Next one. Ya, terima kasih banyak. Ya,
Okay.
betul Pak.
Thank you, Pak Ibek, for a very interesting presentation that same with what occurs in Malaysia, that Indonesia also happened, that some negative things for the social media effect to our democracy. Next, I think we just proceed to the discussion session. I think some of the participants from online first. I think because the previous session we give the session the chance first to the offline participants. Pak Vidi Sukmayadi, please proceed to your question.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So, a very good morning, good afternoon, I guess. Alhamdulillah, Prof. Datuk, Dr. Azizul, Halim, Yahya, thank you for the presentation, and for Kang Ibek, thank you so much for your presentation. I'd like to ask a question first of all to Prof. Azizul. Since on one of your slides, you mentioned about the algorithm awareness that can be fostered through education. So my question will be, at what age should this algorithm literacy be introduced in formal education? So at what age, at what grade do you think that it should be introduced? And secondly, I'd like to validate my proposition here. I need to see whether you are agree or not related to, is it, if for example this digital literacy or media literacy becomes a compulsory component of a generic civic course in a university rather than a specialized elective course. As you know, probably in your university you have research methods and entrepreneurship as your generic civic course. Will it be possible, or is it, do you agree, if media literacy becomes also one of the compulsory civic courses in higher education? And for Dr. Ibek, so I'm really interested in the way when you show how narrow actually our civic space in terms of that only specific people complain. Only specific person can complain about social media defamation, like you said, sir. In your opinion, how to encourage the other part, so the middle and low, let's say let's say the powerless there, like us, how to encourage the powerless to be more, let's say, to be braver in sounding their complaint or their concern, because if we revert to our ETE constitution, mostly the victims, or mostly the constitution is used by those high-ranking politicians and businessmen, like you showed. So how to encourage the, let's say, yeah, the mid or low income, or yeah, like the powerless, to be more active, to be more aware that civic space is also our space. Then same thing as Professor Azizul, Dr. Subekti, do you agree if media literacy is, let's say, established as one of the compulsory civic course in university level? Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, Prof. Datuk Azizul, can you please respond first?
Okay, first of all, terima kasih pada Dr. Vidi for the questions that you raised earlier. What here should we introduce in terms in algorithm understanding or awareness among peoples among us? So we need to realize that nowadays the youngster, the kids today already being exposed with all these electronics, media, gadgets today. They are already aware in terms of how technology can help assist them in terms of, for example, their entertainment. Compared to those people, for example, like baby boomer before, like me, a baby boomer before, was baby boomer. We are not being exposed of this gadget, of this technology. So to me, awareness on algorithms, understanding can be introduced as early as possible, and only we need to devise, come up to curate in terms of what's of the syllabus in it. Because today I also realized that some school already introduced, for example, understanding programming and coding, for example. So it is good that people need to understand what algorithms can do to us. Algorithm actually is a technology where combine the ability that can, in order to make sense in terms of what people's conducting or doing currently, now, and the future, and what those people love to do. So, meaning that a huge database in order for algorithm can be functioning. Yeah. So, to me, as early as possible, and then should be introduced. It could be as an elective, at least for a start, because this is how we prepare for the future. Yeah. So. So what we see today, people who have advantage or enhance, not have the ability because of the support that they receive in the family, through school, in order to explore. Because all this, I realized that are through innovation and also creativity, and in the concepts that they want to know more. In order want to know more, curiosity play very important role. Yeah. So as I would like to respond that, well, there's no age limit. As long that you are interested, you can be exposed with the algorithm. Okay, back to the second questions on the digital literacy or media literacy. In fact, I and my teams already proposed to the governments in Malaysia that we need to introduce the idea concepts of media literacy as early as possible. Because of media literacy is very important, because we are the subscriber or we are the consumer, we consume these all digital media every single day. And today, I think every one of us today, for example, in the room, in Universiti Pajajaran today, are holding phones and exploring all these digital platforms, searching for information, searching for whatever things that can solve problem. So digital media literacy, or digital literacy need to be exposed, need to be explored, need to be used as education, so that people, when use these social media, they will use with full responsibility. Yeah, before you can share, before you can submit, before you can create, before you can write, you need come with responsibility. You need to check your sources, your facts and figure, because as in my presentation just now, social media bypass all these bottlenecks of these editorials and so forth. And you are the editor, you are the writer, you are the content creator, and the question here, are you taking any responsibility or not? Yeah, so you need to take the responsibility. So because of not many people who are taking responsibility of what they said, so we come up with law and ruling, with act. And then some people say when you have ruling and act, it suppress our freedom of expression through a censorship. So if everyone have this responsibility, we don't need anybody, anyone, or act to watch us in order to share things. So I concur with that. That digital literacy, media literacy, need to be exposed, need to be enhanced, need to be used to educate the people in any country. I guess that the two questions that I hope that can answer Dr. Vidi question earlier.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Next, Private, please respond.
Thank you, Kang PD, for that interesting questions. If I understand it correctly, your question is encouraging how to encourage marginalized people, marginalized community, lower working class people, for example, to have more how do you call it? Not opportunity, but intention. To speak freely, to express their dissent, their protest, their disagreements toward the elites. Right? It's easier said than done, of course. For those living at the margins, the cost of dissent and protest is not only physical. I think, it could cost their entire life, their work, their safety, right? Because they don't really have these social safety nets. They don't really have security, private security, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So police summons, doxing, attacks, intimidations can mean losing a job. Yeah. Losing your family, even using your life. So it's really a dangerous situation really we are living in. But if you look at the what Bennett said during my presentation, that one of the shifts in digital realm is that individualization of political experience, right? So social media, internet, and platforms has actually separate us from one another. So they force us to be an individuum, to be individualized, to not connect with others, to be network with others. So I think we should then move away from this kind of silos, personal or privatized silos. So then move away from individual actions into a more collective ones. So I am now a member of, and also I engage myself with the Campus Workers Union. We try to demand so many causes collectively, just for the sake that fighting or doing it together is better than doing it alone. So many cases happened in campus and environments for the lecturers, for the staffs, different cases in different universities across Indonesia. They are facing their own campuses, large and small campuses, private and also public universities. But one of the important messages that we want to send to them is that they are not alone. We are fighting this together. And in fact, we are now having a judicial review of the law on lecturers and also teachers and the Constitutional Court. The message is clear, is that we are doing it collectively. Please don't do it alone. So having a physical connection and physical network is also important. not only doing it online, yeah, please be also aware and conscious that everybody else could be also have the same problem as yours. Yeah. So speaking up is actually touching other people of their own, problems which are similar to yours. Yeah. Build so CASA also sells this hybrid network or hybrid movements between on and also offline. Yeah. So please be aware that we are not only isolated online. Yeah. Still having people also who are also experiencing similar problems also offline, and connecting and networking is actually important as a strategy to escape from those intimidations and also doxings and etc and so forth. Yeah, I think that what's I can offer as a solution to Kang Vida ya tadi. Thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Kang Bekti.
Pak Ibek and also Prof. Azizul. Next, I think we can move to the offline participants. As I say before, that it is compulsory for you to express your question or your opinion. I think we can start from the okay. I think 1, 2, and 3. Okay, you can find the mic on your table. Okay, please, you first. Please state your name and where you come from.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Abdullah Zikri. I'm from Yemen. I would like to thank both doctors, mashallah. Their presentations were very good and they were providing fruitful materials to all audience. My first question is for doctor and the online doctor, Professor Datuk. Is actually if social media has made democracy or democratized or if social media has democratized political participation, and this is by giving everyone a voice, but in the same time like there is the algorithm problem, bias, and cyber troopers which can voice and make voice like becomes visible to some slices of audience in the community and some not, which is a way of manipulation. Can we rely or really say that social media democracy has been more democratic? And the second question is for Professor Dr.phil. It's actually, I want to say that, the examples mentioned before in the slides of the presentation, the two examples of, especially the one that the girl, in pink hijab, were very concrete. But the problem is, the core problem with social media is within the elements that were mentioned, obviously in the presentation, which is who speaks, who is heard, and who is silenced. This depends on the algorithm also. Actually, you later mentioned some recommendations of how to recognize such operations in real times of manipulation and making misunderstanding or misinformation get widespread on social media, but in the same time we have to recognize them later on. But in the same time, the majority of people just like to get exposed to the information, and they just believe the information or disbelieve it based on their bias. So what can we do about this problem? Maybe there will be some educative or support or promotional literacy on such matter that should be done or organized by the government. But will the government get how to say it? Will the government get convinced to make such campaigns on promoting these awareness literacy programs, and what to do? Thank you so much.
Okay. Next, please.
Okay, my name is Mamadou Bente Diallo. You can call me Bente, and I'm from the Gambia. So I have two questions. The first one is, in so many developing countries in Africa, people trust many information online, on WhatsApp, on Facebook. So what role or how can the government and universities improve digital literacy? The second one, in democratic countries, like in my country, in Gambia, it's a small democracy. So what lessons can countries like the Gambia learn from us in dealing with this misinformation or on social media? Yeah.
Waduh. Last one for this talk.
Okay, so thank you so much for the opportunity beforehand. And also thank you very much for this wonderful presentation that both of these amazing figures have presented for today. So before that, my name is Shifra and I'm from Indonesia. I would like to ask to Professor Datuk Dr. Azizul. So we all know that it seems inevitable in how the authority have a huge influence over the media when it comes to propaganda and campaigns, which results the countless of those with negative intents, or as well about the foundation in what we can do in order to identify, keep track, and apply safeguards to this issue, and as well as the establishment of digital governance. However, how can we possibly establish a human rights-based digital governance framework if these authorities are still abusing the platforms and algorithms to meet their personal wants and not to establish democracy, because the authorities would need to gain the public's trust once again? And if that is the case, we can conclude that it seems that we can't be dependent to the authorities when we actually should. And if that's so, what can we do as the public in order to drive and ultimately shift the mindset and technique of these authoritarians, in our opinion, about this disproportionate influence? Thank you so much.
Thank you. So Professor Azizul, you can respond first.
Okay, thank you very much for all the questions, and very interesting question, and I consider a good question to all the three participants. First, I would like to respond to Mr. Abdullah from Yemen. Concerning on the social media, does social media promoting democracy? Because social media do assist help in terms of democratize in terms of what we do. Yes, very much is true. As I mentioned earlier, that if we make to differentiate between before and current, or maybe after, before we have the mainstream media, where media's any information need to go through certain channels, from the journalist or reporter, and take back the informations to the news agency, and then we look into by the editor, and then at the same time also editor might be in some country will release the news based on what the governments would agree or disagree, or in some country the editor will have the full control. But in the using the digital media today, that we don't have any editor. Editor, for example, if you the one that who come up with the news, so meaning no digital, unless the newspaper newspaper or media's company basically reputable that an organization. So basically, it still use you still have this kind of control. Yeah, except that the platform are different compared to before. So yes, it'll be promoting democracy, but back in order, what's next after that? Next after that, whether the information that being released, whether it is truthful or biased, and that come back to the people, the person who who come up with the information. So this back to the integrity, the honesty of the person or the individual. That's one of the reason why earlier I did mention about on the media literacy. That media literacy is to educate. Yeah. For example, I give an analogy. I give an analogy as when I was a kid, as a Muslim, my grandparents, my parents say, we cannot eat pork. We cannot eat pork. Yeah, for example. Yes. So, and that is basically embedded in our mind that it is a forbidden element we cannot touch. Yeah, we cannot touch. In fact, when we see pork, like me, I'm not sure some people in other country, to me, I can't even near to pork. But we seldom mentions about, for example, no alcohol. Yeah, for example, no alcohol, no something. It is forbidden in Islam, no alcohol. But alcohol is not just something is basically that we can compare with pork. Yeah. So we can eat with a friend who drinks beer. For example, the non-Muslim, we can. It's okay. Yeah. As long as we don't drink. So these are basically is an educations that are being conditions in our mind for many years. So this also can be used, for example, in the social media, that we need to tell the truth, nothing but the truth. So if not, well, you have going to have a consequences that it might affect people, it destroys the society and institutions. Yeah. So these are things that I would like to refer to respond to Abdullah from Yemen, and then from Gambia, Mr. Pente, if I can pronounce your names correctly. Of course, there are a lot of information online. There are billions of informations online. In fact, we can't even read or we can't even have a grasp into information. For example, today, the way how we consume information through social media is all by selective. In fact, nowadays, I'm not sure in Indonesia, do we buy newspaper anymore? For example, we can see that buying newspaper in Malaysia is a dying industry today, the physical newspaper. So, and yet, we still have the information and the latest information. But this information can come from different sort of channel. Some channel are trustworthy channel. Some are basically channel we are not sure come from which media, which organization, which country, we don't even know. I've been following, as in my presentation, I've been following in terms of how reports are being created during the Gulf War, the current war. And we can see all these portals are basically mushrooming. We don't even know from where this portal come from. And suddenly, these portals are all over the place and everywhere, sharing information. Basically, these are the real story, the current story, the latest news, the breaking news, and we don't even know. And then I can read all the response by the people. The people who favor it will say that it's good, is everything, without reading the whole thing. And some people are who really criticize against it on the other groups. Yeah, so we don't really understand the actual situation. So and we can see that so many clashes in some country just because of being misguided by this information. So, and then you ask about the role of the government. The role of the government are basically, first thing, you need to show a good example. You got to be transparent in everything that they do. So because this can gain support by the people that they trust the government, whatever the government said. Yeah, it's not going to hide anything. And as a university, also lead by example. And then introduce courses into educate students that to tell the truth. Easy to say, but I know that it's difficult to practice. It's going to take some time, somewhere, in order for us to meet full satisfaction, in order to curb all these false, fake information and news. And then as for the next questions by Shifa, I think, from Indonesia, talking about propaganda. Propaganda basically is not new. It has been introduced, I think, almost more than 100 years. But propaganda are basically being seen taking place during the Second World War. During the Second World War, where the German, using his propagandist specialist, Goebbels, use propaganda in order to convince their people to support, outright support for the government, for Nazi. Yeah, but at the same time, it can be done because there's no source of other information. If you remember history, that no one can own during the war own any radio. There's no paper can be published except directly from the ruler, for example. But today, we don't have any choice because we have thousands of channels in order to get the information. So meaning that propaganda is black propaganda. Black propaganda, grey propaganda. Grey propaganda is that we are uncertain. Black propaganda are basically they have an agenda in order to support, although maybe it's wrong. But we also have white propaganda to do good things. Yeah. So these are things that there are also propaganda which they retain, but in terms of whether you want to abuse it or not, in order to convince. In terms of what we see in the social media today, there's a lot of kind of propaganda to influence, to divert opinions in order to get full support for certain decisions making. And then yes, there's if I'm not mistaken, on the I hope I'm not missed talking about on the digital government that introduced digital that might abuse it. Well, it happened all over the place. Yeah, in order to get support. Earlier, that mentions about how Trump, for example, won the elections. Yeah, and using using whatever distort information through the social media, facts and the sum of the figure, and then it is back to our responsibility to double check and check, not just simply believe outright in terms of what being shared in the social media. So what the public can do, people like us, anything we do, please check. Yeah, please check. For example, in Islam, we say tabayun and check. Yeah, check whatever source from where it comes from, and then before we share, before we can spread to information to our friends, to our colleague, to our society, please double check, because we have to take the responsibility if we share wrong thing, because it might cause harm to the people. I guess that's all the answer for the three questions that they mentioned just now. Thank you.
Okay, next you have two questions towards you, Ibek.
I think, thank you, Abdullah from Yemen, and also Momodu, if I understand correctly, from Gambia. The two questions are related to each other, I think similar, so I can respond it to you both. Who speak, who is heard is also the works of algorithms. And from my presentation, there is a formula how can we detect those misinformation and manipulated content, for example. But now the question is how to improve those capabilities. And of course, there is no one size fits all answers or policy. There's no one universal regulations of policy solutions that can address all of those problems. But I think I agree with Professor Azizul. Thinking critically, the capability to think critically is also really, really important. Different kind of literacy, digital media, you mentioned algorithmic literacy, information, news literacy are important in some countries. This kind of competence already being introduced and also taught since the elementary school, for example. Already being introduced to children, of course, with different strategy according to the levels of cognitive competence. But I think people now, because also small children already interact or using gadgets, they really connect with the internet. So those capabilities must be introduced since the early age. But those are recommendations or solutions on the individual level. Of course, we need answers, we need solutions on a more structural and systemic level, right? Not only relying on our individual competence itself. But I think from the very perspective, we need to build a kind of enabling environment for people to build initiatives as well, right? So different communities, different groups with different problems and different resources often come up with different initiatives and also solutions, so creative solutions. From my experience traveling to different communities and rural communities in Indonesia, from Aceh to Papua, different villages, how they respond to central design or central problems are diverse. How they circumvent around those designs, responding and coming up with their own solutions are really fascinating. So I think we need to build a vibrant enabling environment so that people can optimize their own local solutions to the universal problems. Sometimes the solutions cannot be replicated to other societies, other communities, because they have different contexts as well, different resources. And sometimes local wisdoms in indigenous communities can be also an effective solutions to digital problems such as online gambling, for example, such as pornography, right? Because they have kind of local codex or indigenous like our customary rules and regulations, which is very effective for their own people. So I think we need to recognize those kind of local solutions as well. Another more structural solutions is that through regulations to regulate the distribution itself. In Indonesia, we have Perpres or Presidential Regulations number 32, 2024 about publishers' rights, known as publishers' rights, which aims to regulate responsibilities of digital platforms in supporting quality journalism in Indonesia. So according to this, government or presidential regulations, which also exists in Australia, in Canada, in the European Union as well. So we can demand, so the media can also demand through negotiations that the platforms, companies should pay kind of remunerations for these press companies, for these mass media companies, for being, having their reports extracted by the AI, by the algorithms, to be then amplified or republished in their own platforms, in Google, Meta, and other big platform companies. Yeah. So this kind of regulations actually, empowered media institutions in Indonesia which work for the people. Yeah. Although of course they have also their own political interests and political agenda, yeah. But at least local media can be empowered through these negotiations. Another initiative is also strengthening the public interest or public service media. I don't know how it is in your country, but in many countries, they have both private companies and also public companies, public media service, public media companies, which unfortunately in Indonesia, if we look at the market shares, is really, really weak. So TVRI and RRI as two broadcasting companies, public broadcasting companies in Indonesia are really not really that strong face-to-face with private companies, right? Because they are lack of funding. So now the solution is that how we find a public funding for this public service media, yeah, so they don't focusing or orient themselves to the clicks, yeah, to traffic, yeah, to ratings, for example, yeah, but more for the people itself. Yeah. So I think that's where objectivity and truth comes from. So if you want to strengthen the media, that's task for ourselves. In the Japan, in Germany, for example, public broadcasting and public media are really, really strong. Yeah, they have taxes for people who directly fund this kind of media. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's what can be offered. And this second question is, I think that was it, right? Digital literacy, better place, promote in this. Yeah, how should the government to promote this effort, digital literacy effort? To be honest, in this political climate and in this economy, if you look at in Indonesia, I can only speak for Indonesia, I am very pessimistic. It's very unlikely for the current regime, for the current government, giving much attention and also investment into public educations, which want to change a curriculum and then add media information, technology literacy into the curriculum. I don't see it, at least in the near future. I see why, if you want to criticize the governments, they don't really trust the systems anymore, education systems, economic systems. They recently built a new university, Universitas Republik Indonesia, Indonesia Republic University, without having consultation first with the people, with the parliament. Yeah. I mean, are we a joke now here? Yeah, having established like tens of years ago, yeah, hundreds, thousands of universities in Indonesia, but they don't trust us as an established system. Yeah, so and also they have the Sekolah Garuda, yeah, a new school, new elite school, which is designed for the top tier students, and then they will be then enrolled in these new universities. Which don't have the buildings as per now we are speaking. So I don't see that the current government will invest in this kind of efforts within the systems. I don't know if they want to build another system. Yeah, I don't know why they don't trust the people, the established systems. So yeah, the short answer is no, very unlikely. Sorry to say. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I think that's the last term of our discussion, so we have to conclude the discussion. And before we close this session, I invite to Professor Datuk Azizul to giving a closing statement. Do you have any? Sorry, you are still muted, Prof.
Yeah, not much, but I believe for this forum, this platform is a way forward for us to ensure that we're going to have a healthy society in the future. We need to have more discussions. We need to educate small people in order to understand better, because this is our new way of life in consuming information, and also it will be used in order for us to make the right decisions in the future. Yeah, so I applaud the University Pajajaran, especially Faculty of Law, for organizing this event and to educate students about these matters. Thank you.
Okay, do you have any closing statement, Pak?
Yeah, also not really, but perhaps because I look most of the things from the perspective of the very. I just want to say that just be critical, be creative, and don't give the powers to the center that much. Be creative to create an initiative and network with people, because when everything is worsening, is going bad, it's only the people that we can trust, we can rely on. It is the periphery that will take the center stage. And I think that will at least offer a solution from the perspective of the people, and not relying much on the system, on the government, on the state, on the centers. I think, as an offer. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone, and we would like to say thank you very much to Prof. Azizul and also to Pak Ibek. And as a symbol of appreciation, we have a symbolic, we call it plakat, plakat in English. I invite Bu Ina to give our symbolic reward to Pak Ibek. And after this, we will have a group photos. So Prof. Azizul, please stay on cam, because we will try to make a hybrid photos for us and for you. First, I invite Bu Ina to give a symbolic reward to Pak Ibek. Okay. Now let's take a group photos here. So Prof. Azizul can join the photos here. Lebih lengkap di sini kayaknya. Ya. Jadi ininya dikosongin. Ya, tengahnya kosongin. Ya. Can you make the Prof. Azizul full screen, operator?
Berarti kita bisa duduk aja biar enggak.
Yeah. Can you move closer to here? So you're gonna take the documentation. Okay. Nice, perfect. Yeah. Aku harus kesana. Okay, thank you everyone.
Prof. Azizul, thank you for your valuable time to join us.
Okay.
And
Most
hope
welcome.
see you again in other opportunity.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you
Prof.
for the invitation.
Yes,
Assalamualaikum.
I'm happy to do so. Assalamualaikum. Okay. So I believe the lunch box has been already settled, and please visited it. Just give me about 5 or 10 minutes. I would like to mingle with you actually.